Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. We're going to go over Special Edition, and this is our first in a series of 4 lists to talk about games that you may consider for yourself or others for the holiday season. As 2019 is starting to come to an end, I want to do this a little bit earlier than later in case anybody is interested in ordering games, because sometimes as the Christmas rush happens, a lot of the games go disappear, etc. But our first foray is in family non-gamer intro games. So these are the top 10 family non-gamer necessarily intro games. I will also follow it up with 3 other series: light games, medium games, and heavy games, and those are a little bit different. Now, it's a little murky as far as where the lines go between this is a family game versus this is a light game, so as always, nothing is mathematical, and every list is subjective. But without further ado, let's go into the top 10 games for family gatherings or non-gamers, or just to introduce people into gaming over the course of holidays when people are meeting each other. Number 10, and these are in no particular order. The game that's really hit the sweet spot, and the one that probably, if I had a number 1 in this one, I would say would be Llama. Llama is a game almost like Uno, but without that stigma that us snobby gamers decide is too good. Llama is a curious game that's as simple to play as Uno, in fact, maybe even simpler, but with the added element of your, like, pressing your luck, taking a risk in very simple ways. Llama is colorful. It's basically a deck of cards and you're on your way. You could introduce it to pretty much everybody. There's almost nothing to learn, and yet I still enjoy it. I pulled it out pretty much at every gathering. We even play a couple rounds of it. Some of the heavier gamers the more astute board gaming folks that I play with actually like it as well. So Llama. The next one is Parks. Parks is great for people who like a natural outdoor theme in a simplified fashion. There are actually a couple different park games out there, but I like Parks. Consider that one. And Splendor. Now I'm giving you most of the games that I'm going to talk about are modern games. There's a lot of like top 10 games for people, the Tickets to Rides, the Carcassones, etc. I'm dealing with games that have come out in the 2018, 2019, with the exception of any game that I think perennially just goes over the top to be an experience that you can always introduce to people. And Splendor is one of them. Splendor is a very easy game. If you get the nice poker chip edition, it's got a nice visceral feel, very easy to explain, very colorful, and not bad. I would definitely recommend it. Azul is a different kind of game that I did not warm up to for about a year, but now I see the value of Azul. Not only does it have the nice, once again, visceral pieces, the nice chunky pieces, but it really fits well, and you get to kind of build a puzzle. There are a couple other games. One is called Sagrada, and others that I didn't add to this list because they actually wound up being harder to explain than I thought. Azul is not very difficult to explain. People get it. They might not get the scoring right away, but they get the idea of putting together patterns, and that sort of entices them, the ones I've introduced to do. Another one is Century Spice Road. This is a game very similar to Splendor in that you're basically collecting cubes, using them to buy for cards. Using those cards, they'll be buy more cubes, buy more cards. You get this nice rhythm and flow. Nothing too taxing, nothing brain-worthy, easy to set up and nice pieces. Codenames is a game that if you have multiple people and they're more of a party atmosphere type, but they're not so party that they need apples to apples or any of the other stuff. Codenames is still something I pull out all the time for people. They like the guesswork. They like the risk of guessing wrong and winding up and such. You can break it into teams of all kinds. I've played it with groups of 2 and 2. Which I think worked okay. Groups of 3 and 3 work better. That's the beauty of it. You can stretch it out or close it in. Las Vegas is a game you can always bring. It plays up to 4. It always brings someone to the table. Again, the rules are simple. You roll the dice, and then you pick whichever dice you want best, and then you try and make it match. And this is an interesting one in that you're trying to get the most dice that you can, the largest amount of dice in certain, like, well, it's hard to explain, but you've got these casinos and like 1 to 6, and you're placing your dice on these 1 to 6 casinos as you roll them. You want to have the most dice. You don't want to be equal to someone else because then neither of you count. And so that's kind of a way. It's simple. Just bone dead simple, but it's very entertaining. People really groove onto it, and you don't have to waste a bunch of breath teaching it. It's really simple. By the time you've rolled the first dice and explain what to do, everybody starts to get it. And finally, Dream Home is a game that people love thematically. Not necessarily the absolute easiest to teach, but not bad either. You're building a home. You're getting pieces. You're taking those pieces. You're building a dream home. Really simple, a nice kind of way that would probably steer people to a little bit more than other games towards, hey, are there any cooler games like this, but more, maybe a little more for the mind. Cat Lady, if you love cats as much as I don't, Cat Lady is a fun game of set collection in a quirky way. My wife has the app, and she's played literally thousands of games of Cat Lady on the app. And the card game, board game is also equally well. So if you can find that around, you're going to find some good entertainment. And finally, the game of games that I bring to the table for anybody who's just on the edge of, I'll play something a little meatier than a mindless Uno/Llama, and that's Bang the Dice game. I have retired the card game. It was too complicated to explain. The elimination was too just hard on people. Bang the Dice game is absolutely awesome. People get it. You roll the dice. You figure out what happens. It just takes everything about Bang the card game and turns it into a nice little shooting match that just brings love and care and arrows into your loved ones. So with that, that's it. Always on the comments, if you will, anybody or have any ideas as well of what you think people might enjoy. As I said, the audience for my channel is often, it started off with people who knew nothing about games. I just needed sort of like, wanted to kind of get, a foray into, hey, what is this board gaming thing? So it ranges from that all the way to people who have played vastly more sophisticated games than I. And so when it comes to light games, I will confess, I don't actually play a lot of them as much as I used to because my family's grown up, they moved on, they're not necessarily board gamers anymore, and so my tastes have skewed a little bit more towards complicated games. So yeah, any suggestions people have in the comments, by all means. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games.